What's going on, Flightfam? This is your captain speaking, and welcome back to Flight4080. Now, in the last video, well, I'll let this little montage speak for itself. Every time I come to Lagos, it's always a party, but the one thing that I absolutely dread is leaving Lagos, and the reason why is that I'm leaving family, I'm leaving friends, and also I'm leaving the love of my life, and that's one of the hardest things to ever go through, especially during the holiday season when this was filmed. And my family can tell you, I love going across 3rd Mainland Bridge, going towards Lekki, but then coming back from Lekki, and going into the mainland and heading over to Murtala Muhammad, and don't like it at all. I'll even tell the truth, sometimes I tear up. I actually do. Arriving at MMIA, it's always a little bit hectic, especially during the time when KLM is normally leaving, Air France is also leaving, Delta is also leaving. There's a lot of international departures during that time. Since this was filmed before Emirates returning to Nigeria, between the hours of 5 p.m. to 11:55 p.m., here are the following departures from Lagos Murtala Muhammad International Airport. As an honorable mention, I will add the Malabo flight that Lufthansa operates between Lagos and Malabo, Lufthansa Flight 568. Now onto the official list. Starting off, leaving at 7 p.m. is Qatar Airways Flight 1406 to Doha. Next, at 9:50 p.m. is South African Airways Flight 61 to Johannesburg, South Africa. At 10:20 p.m. is Turkish Airlines Flight TK626 to Istanbul. Coming up at 11 p.m. is KLM Flight 588 to Amsterdam, Schiphol. Next is my flight at 11:10, British Airways Flight 74 to London-Heathrow. And right behind that at 11:30 p.m. is the competitor, Air Peace Flight 7578 to London Gatwick. We'll talk about them a little bit later. Given that my flight was on Sunday, United Airlines Flight 613 operates to Washington Dulles International Airport, leaving at 11:50. And scheduled to leave 5 minutes behind United Airlines, Air France 149 to Paris Charles de Gaulle International Airport, and Lufthansa Flight 569 to Frankfurt. So given that international travelers normally go to the airport no more than 3 to 4 hours before departure, especially in a place like Lagos, a lot of traffic at the airport is bound to happen. Luckily, this time I'll be trying out the new terminal once again. Check-in went smooth, and since we upgraded to business class, it went even smoother.
So I don't know if you can see right there, that is a Turkish Airlines A330, looks like a 200, and it's weird because I never seen them park here at Lagos at the new airport. So again, welcome back, and today we will be flying on British Airways Boeing 787-10. Since we're now here at Murtala Muhammad, I'm leaving the new terminal for the old terminal. When I arrived here, we arrived on the new terminal, well, technically the old terminal to the new. Now I'm going from the new to the old, so I guess that is reciprocation for me doing this, but I upgraded my flight to Club World, so let's see if round 2 of my Nigerian adventure is a lot better than round 1. Let's head over to, because the British Airways lounge here is not open, so let me see what lounge is this. This is the SDS lounge. Let's check out and see how the SDS lounge is.
Yeah, that's one thing that always boggled me, was just the fact that we would check in at the new terminal but still depart out of the old terminal, which reminds me a little bit like Port Authority bus terminal in New York City. British Airways has a lounge in Lagos, however, when I was leaving, the lounge was being renovated, so they contracted with the SDS lounge for the time being. The lounge isn't that spacious, especially considering all of the airlines that are leaving during that time frame. But of course, a lounge is a lounge and we make do with what we have. Getting to the lounge, an attendant came up and I went for one more plate of jollof rice and chicken with a Nigerian Heineken. I sat in the upper level just due to the fact that the main level had way too many people. The upper level does offer a little bit more of an intimate space, and it offers a nice view of the ramp and the Boeing 787-10 that we'll be flying on tonight.
So the lounge situation here in Murtala Mohammed is decent. It's decent for what you get. So we're now getting ready to start boarding. So they just called for British Airways business class passengers to Club World passengers to start boarding. So first class and business class passengers are now getting ready to board. So I'm heading over to D. Let me see if I got my ticket. Today is D43. So I can't wait to get on board and have a good meal, fall asleep, and then wake up in London. And then we have 10 hours in London, which it'll be like 5 or 6 hours at that point. So let us see how things will be in London. But before then, let's start boarding.
It doesn't matter if you're a foreign traveler or a Nigerian. The gates at the old terminal are always boiling hot. Remember my comments in part 2 about Terminal 5 at Heathrow?
Hey, Terminal 5, do you know anything about air conditioning? Because it is hot in here. It is burning hot in here.
Yeah, it doesn't come close to this. Please note, there are some air conditioners that are around, but they don't do any service throughout the entirety of the terminal, only in a small space if you're sitting close by.
Alright, round 2. Let's go home with British Airways.
Boarding went wicked quick, just like Harry Potter trying to catch the snitch in Quidditch.
Hello, 15 kilo.
That's great. So just cut through the galley and turn to the right.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Oh, wow. The cabin is nice in first class. Oh my gosh.
My seat on tonight's flight is 15 kilo. This is located in the second Club World cabin, so not much engine noise, but we do get a nice wing view. Still kind of wanted to hear the engines though. As you can see, I'm trying to settle in and get everything set up. So the normal footage that you would see in a seat tour on my channel, I try to go through it as thoroughly as possible. However, as you would see in a second, I got distracted by something that was pretty disturbing.
Alright, so we're on 15 kilo tonight. Let's just check the seat. So last time I was in a British Airways seat, it wasn't really good. So let's just check it. The seat's pretty good, doable for the Club World suite. So let me just get settled and I'll get right back to you guys.
Since we're in 15 kilo, for starters, in the bigger storage bin, you have the following. No clutter this time too. In the center, you will have the PSP style remote for the entertainment system. To the right of that, you have a USB-A port and a 3.5mm auxiliary port. To the left of that, you have the universal power outlet and another USB-A port above it. To the right of the bigger storage bin is a smaller storage bin where you can store small to mid-sized personal electronics such as phones and earbuds. Now this is where we get to the good stuff, or shall we say down and dirty. So what you see there are vents to the suite. The suite and the cabin wall aren't connected to each other. On my last flight and on the future flight, the Boeing 777 has a little lip that extends to the cabin wall, which prevents any debris going in between the suite and the cabin wall.
So BA, I didn't show this the last time, but what can be this?
And what you see there, oh my god. From a design perspective, the vents are there to allow airflow to go into the suite as well, near your legs, especially when you're sleeping. However, what I saw in between the cabin wall and the suite wall were menus, pencils, candy wrappers, you name it, it was there. And I just couldn't believe that this was in between the seat. It was just something that, okay, the last flight that I had, we already had a seat issue. This time I had a debris issue. However, another distraction came my way, and it was two things. Number one, a friendly cabin crew, and number two, a nice glass of champagne. It's already bad enough that I'm leaving my family, and on top of that, now I'm leaving on a little bit of a dirty note. And just like the song, yes, isn't it sad that we're pushing back right now? However, dirtiness and wahala aside, let's get into this beautiful and incredible aircraft, the Boeing 787-10. Tonight's flight will be operating as British Airways BA74, with the call sign of Speedbird 74. Tonight's registration will be flown on Golf-Zulu Bravo Lima Bravo, a 3-year-old Boeing 787-10 at the time of flight. And as we taxi towards runway 18 left under a beautiful night sky over Lagos, I'll turn on the fasten seatbelt sign and allow you to listen to the beautiful Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 engines on the Boeing 787-10. You won't really hear it that well, but you can still hear the spool up of the engine. It's a beautiful takeoff. I didn't cry yet, but leaving Lagos is pretty much leaving home. So, seeing it from the air is a beautiful send-off. Now, you've been hogging the mic for too long, so I will tell you exactly what happened. Normally, when my compatriot would go on and on about the flight map and the routing of that day, apparently, he didn't take into account that Flight Radar 24 in his plan doesn't allow you to see the flight routing over 365 calendar days. So if you think that you're going to get an extra day with the leap year, you're not. But I discovered a very beautiful website where you can actually find the routing from beyond 365 calendar days. As a matter of fact, you can go back about 5 years with this flight and get the exact flight number for free. The website is Flight Error. No, this is not sponsored, but I do believe that this is a beautiful tool for everyone to see. Unfortunately, it didn't capture the first 60% of the flight routing accurately, but I can tell you that we did take off from runway 18 left due to construction on the runway of 18 right, where you would normally have the international departures and arrivals. From there, we made a right turn, heading north, leaving Lagos under a beautiful yet humid night sky. Continuing our track north, heading into the Benin Republic, and entering the country of Niger. Wow, you actually said it correct this time. Oh, would you just shut up, you flippin' twit? What did you just say? Oh, excuse me, sorry, I meant to say fine gentleman. Yeah, that's more like it. Anyways, we continued north, heading over Mali, and then entering the biggest country on the continent of Africa, Algeria. The accurate flight tracking commenced just south of the city of Oran, which lies just off the coast of the western Mediterranean. After a relatively short hop over the Mediterranean, we entered Spanish airspace, passing between the cities of Cartagena and Alicante, then continuing north, passing Madrid to our east. Oh, but I thought it was Madrid. You do realize that I called you a twit earlier, right? I know, that's why I'm teasing you on your pronunciation. Anyways, again, we would make a slight right turn near Bilbao before entering French airspace. Continuing north, we would pass a city that I will not try to pronunciate because I do not want to be known as the mispronunciator on the internet. However, when I translate that city, it translates to reindeer. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Oh god. Once passing over the city of the Red-Nosed Reindeer, we would start our descent near the Isle of Jersey and the Isle of Guernsey, crossing over the English Channel. Now we're back home, aren't we? I can't wait until this is done. We would reach the United Kingdom, England to be precise, descending over Portsmouth, continuing our descent near Guildford before making a right turn over Cobham. Continuing our descent over Epsom. Wait, is that where Epsom salt's from? Shut up! We would begin a wide left turn starting at Croydon, continuing over Sydenham, Forest Hill, which the turn will start to end near Brixton and Stockwell, then beginning our final descent over Fulham, Barnes, Kew, Spring Grove and Hounslow, before touching down on runway 27 right at London-Heathrow International Airport. Tonight's red-eye flight will take 6 hours 27 minutes, cruising at 36, 37, and 38,000 feet respectively. See, I can do this just as good as you. Yeah, okay buddy, whatever you believe in. Anyways, since we're cruising altitude, I'll turn off the fasten seatbelt sign and let's get into the flight. Since I've already flown on this aircraft type in part 2, I won't get into the cabin configuration verbally, but here is a visual illustration for you to see. Pause if you're very interested to see how many seats are in each respective cabin class. Here's the thing, 6 hours 27 minutes seems like a long time. However, on red eyes like this, the time goes by fairly quickly. Thankfully, the crew didn't hesitate to start taking down our dinner orders. The crew member that I had was very friendly. He was from Pakistan and an avid av geek such as myself. If you don't know what an av geek is, I'm very, very honored to tell you what that is. An av geek is basically the term for someone with a strong passion for aviation. So yes, I happen to be one of them. And he was as well. He told me his favorite aircrafts, which were the 747-400 and the Boeing 777. I think it was the 300ER. And I'm kind of stalling for time because I do not remember the menu. I forgot to take a picture of it. So the starter happened to be a prawn starter with a side salad. And I went for the single malt whiskey, I believe it was Singleton, and something that I believe you can only get on a British Airways flight, which is Speedbird IPA. This was my 6th time flying on British Airways, but my 1st time trying it, and it wasn't that bad. And if you're wondering, the starter was pretty good too. I just wish that there were more prawns. Now I made the perfect signal just because of how good the service was in terms of the attention to detail. The food was fairly decent. It was actually pretty good. And the mixture of the Coke and the single malt was pretty good as well. He actually made that for me. The main, I believe, was braised ox cheek, which was absolutely delicious. Especially at this time of the night, it's really good to have comfort food, especially after all that alcohol. Guilty as charged, that is a 3rd single malt and Coke. What? And I went for I do know this one. This one was actually a raspberry chocolate mousse. I'm not a big fan of raspberries at all, but it wasn't that bad. Not long after, it was time to go to bed. But I think this is the perfect segue to explain something that I said in part 2. And even though there was something that I technically wanted to try with you guys about 5 years ago, but missed the chance to. For every av geek, there's always that one aircraft that we wish we could fly on. For me, that was the Boeing 747-400 with British Airways. Some may think it's with the Concorde. I'll get to that in a second. Back in November of 2017, British Airways had 36 747-400s left. They were slated to be retired in 2024. Now fast forward about 3 years from 2017 and we all know what happened that year. And unfortunately, that same year, British Airways decided to retire the 747-400 fleet entirely in 2020. This effectively destroyed one of my lifelong dreams, which was to fly the 747-400 with British Airways over to London and being my first international flight ever.
The 747-400 is becoming increasingly rare. The only major airline to operate the 747-400 currently is Lufthansa, and they have 8 left in their fleet. However, they'll be retired by 2028, being replaced by the Boeing 777-9X whenever that gets certified. Another reason why I'm so infatuated with British Airways is the fact that they operated 3 of my favorite aircrafts of all time, which take up the #1 spot because I technically can't really choose one that I love the most out of these 3. Of course, the beloved 747-400, the 757-200, and of course, the Concorde. And the third reason is the obvious. They're one of the 2 airlines to have ever operated the world's first and currently only supersonic commercial aircraft ever. Yet you are wrong. And how exactly am I wrong? Because you just said that British Airways was one of 2 airlines to operate the world's first and currently only commercial supersonic aircraft. The Soviets were the first ones to build a supersonic commercial aircraft. Oh god, don't do it. Yes, the one aircraft that you cannot deny, the Tupolev Tu-144. NATO will give it the small boy nickname of Charger. No, we decided to give it the nickname to its competitor of your precious Concorde. We called it Konkordsky, beating your precious Concorde to the first flight of testing by 2 whole months. That is true, but Concorde still did pretty well for itself. Duh. And it was more successful than what we created. Yeah, but at least you guys still tried. I actually did get the chance to see a Concorde up close in person back in 2024. This one is located in New York City, nestled on the pier next to the Intrepid Air and Space Museum. And even though this one's retired, stationary, and not breaking records anymore and roaring down runways,
Tires are freaking massive.
it's still a technological marvel to behold. And even though the Concorde was already extremely fast, this specific Concorde was actually the fastest. This Concorde's registration is Golf-Bravo Oscar Alpha Delta, which holds the record for the fastest Atlantic crossing at only 2 hours, 52 minutes, and 59 seconds on February 7th, 1996. Now I get it. The seats aren't as comfortable or lie flat like today. There's no such thing as seatback entertainment. The windows are barely bigger than a smartphone. Wi-Fi wasn't installed. Granted, all Concordes were retired by 2003 between British Airways and Air France respectively, but it doesn't take away the fact that Concorde was definitely ahead of its time, with technology that we haven't even come close to replicating since. But it's most definitely one of the best results of peak engineering, ingenuity, imagination, and innovation in human history.
You see, with peak aviation or peak engineering in aviation, anything is possible. That's why I love aviation so much, because it only improves each and every time. And this is living proof that in peacetime, you can create something that is just one of a kind. And it's kind of sad to see it just sitting here when it could be roaring up in the air, breaking more records. But until then, let's just go back to the flight.
Wow, with all that talk about British Airways' history, or a brief little insight on it, I took a short little nap. I wouldn't say that I slept that much, and it was time for a caffeine hit because we were arriving very early in the morning. Not long after, we started our descent into Heathrow. This early morning arrival wasn't so good, just due to the fact that I was already missing my family. But beyond all of that, it was still a fairly good approach.
baby misses his family, now he's halfway home. I'll be glad when this series is over, so that way I don't have to deal with you. Likewise, simpleton. Anyways, besides this sycophant trying to ruin the mood, hey, welcome to London-Heathrow International Airport, where the local time is 4:51 a.m. We left Lagos 14 minutes late, however, we did make it up in the air, but not enough to make it directly on time, so we were 1 minute late. But that's not a knock, especially with a beautiful surprise as soon as I arrive. Now we were taxiing pretty slow, and I was already anticipating going through a bus gate. But guess what? We will not be damned today because we have won. We finally get a jet bridge. Good, because I'm not in a good mood. And no, this is not because of British Airways. I was absolutely sad at this point. But now I turn the question to you. Have you ever experienced such an abhorrent sight of dirt in any business class seat? Not even just British Airways. I really want to know the stories down below. And from my fellow AvGeeks out there, were there any aircrafts that you ever wanted to fly on but never got a chance to do so? Again, I really want to know. And as always, I'd like to take the time to thank you for tuning in to another review on Flight4080. Thank you for watching the third installment of the British Ballads, and I'll see you soon for the finale. Cheers for now.